Hi, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear 10 podcast. I'm your co-host, Roel Dionisio, and I'm here alongside with Francois Verges. How are you doing, Francois?
I'm very good. How are you, Roel?
I'm doing very good. I'm glad to be recording another episode about Mobility Field Day 11. I feel like that was like so long ago, but I guess the days go by quickly once you get back into the swing of things, right? There's more work that needs to be done in your business or wherever you work at, and when you get back you find that you don't have time to do the reviews of what you've done at Mobility Field Day. I don't know if you felt the same way with previous MFDs.
Yes, and this one I didn't even attend, so I tried to catch the live feeds as much as I could, and then watch the videos afterwards. So it's even harder to find time to watch the videos afterwards when you miss the live event. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and this live event, it was pretty good. It was in Silicon Valley, and for this episode we're really going to talk about Fortinet and what they were presenting at MFD11. What was really interesting to me with Fortinet is they come in with these amazing statistics, right? Stats like, hey, we've got over 730,000 customers globally across the whole world, and then we are about 50% of all global firewall shipments. And I think that's quite the stats, don't you think?
Yeah, that's. I guess that's their expertise is security, and they like to come to Mobility Field Day and talk about their Wi-Fi solution. But you always feel like security is there on everything they do.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's they have like a strong culture around security, and like you mentioned, the firewalls. They're one of the main providers of firewall out there. And also with Fortinet, what's impressive as well is that they seem to have like a solution for everything. Um, so they like to come in and say, we can just pretty much
Yeah.
deploy the entire network, the switching, the firewalling, the NAC, the wireless, the SASE or whatever. We can do it in the cloud. We can do it on prem. So it looks like they're very keen on making sure that they propose, or they have like a wide array of product, and then they propose the right solution for their client.
Yeah, and of course, like what you said, security is really at the forefront. It's their number one priority, and so they extend that over to the wireless portion. And in this session, they did talk about how a lot of the security is implemented at the AP level, which I thought was, that's good to hear, because we never really hear about security
hmm
being done from the AP perspective, where it can just stop certain threats before it even touches the switch. And I think that's what a lot of people really look for when they're trying to secure their networks. But one of the things, or there's a couple of things that Fortinet touched upon, like they have like a really good portfolio, right? They have everything. If you want to talk about network access control, like a NAC, they've got that. They've had it for a while, and it's easy to implement that into your existing equipment. Like if you've got a FortiGate, it's there, right?
hmm Yeah, they have this, and then you mentioned security at the AP level. I believe they do this with like an additional radio, right? They have like an additional Wi-Fi radio that they use to do all of that security stuff.
Yeah, I think they do. It's all there, especially with their APs. Because one of the comments that was it Drew? He mentioned about their APs because of the number of antennas that they have on those
hmm
things.
It's like 10
And
antennas, right?
yeah, like all these antennas on the APs, and they've got to have that dedicated radio for doing all these security scanning, um, looking at the spectrum, and they do have the ability within the FortiGate to look at spectrum and any interference. Right, they've got a waterfall, they've got the graphs
Mm.
there, and that's just built into the FortiGate itself. So the FortiGate, in addition to being a firewall, can also be your wireless controller. And it has a lot of the most fundamental management capabilities of a controller already in one single unit. So there's an ROI there where you don't have to buy a dedicated wireless controller for your access points.
Mm-hmm. And one of the new thing that they presented at this Mobility Field Day event was their new Wi-Fi 7 AP. So they talked about, Wi-Fi 7, just like any other vendor, the benefit of having Wi-Fi 7 in the future and all of this. And they have a 4x4 Wi-Fi 7 AP. And if I recall properly, they have two 10 gig ports on the AP, which I was like, whoa.
They're really
like,
preparing for that big number that most of these companies always advertise, which is that 46 gigabits per second, right? You're gonna need when you see a number like that, you gotta think, is 2 10 gig ports enough? But in reality, we're probably not going to see that number. I think when you start doing tests, you get the realistic numbers just because of how Wi-Fi works, right? But they are one of the few, I think, that has like that 4x4 and 10 gig ports because some of the features with Wi-Fi 7, it's the numbers are pretty like flexed right there, right? Like a 16 by 16 MIMO. Are we going to see something like that? I don't know. But Fortinet is actually going to be making that 4x4 AP, right, for Wi-Fi 7. So they're getting ready. They're wanting to be able to do all these different diagnostics and being able to view performance at an AP level through the FortiGate, which I think is pretty neat. And like you said, Wi-Fi 7, it's coming, and it's actually padding a lot of the performance numbers that we're going to see from all these different devices, right? Because if Fortinet has to make the wireless controller be able to handle all of this, it's got to have the resources behind it.
Yeah, it's that was that the two 10 gig ports. I think today is not that necessary. Like you said, we're probably not going to see those numbers. But we never know in the future what I'm expecting to see is definitely go above 1 gig, in the near future. 10 gig is still far off, I think, for what we could expect from an access or Wi-Fi access point. On the wireless side of things, they also talk about multiple pre-shared key support with WPA3. Which I know, some vendors working on it, some vendors starting to support it. So it's nice to see that they're bringing support for that. I think they're one of the first in the industry to do this.
And I'm curious, like, how that works. I think that question was brought up during the session because one of the things as WPA3 came out was this multiple pre-shared key didn't work. It broke with WPA3. So how it works, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, it would be nice to understand exactly how it works. You're right. It's probably one of those other like vendor feature, like proprietary features that we'll see roll up slowly but surely by vendors, but at the end all vendors will kind of do the same thing and support it. It's that's actually one of the features that should be in the standard if you think about it. I don't know if it could be the standard, but it's the one thing that everyone wants. So
does everybody want it though? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's very common. It's very common. Like the one per share key per user. I don't know. I guess we'll see. They also talked about the cloud quite a bit, right? So being able to manage
that one was new
for
for this year, right? Because whenever Fortinet comes to Mobility Field Day, they do talk about all of their product, the majority of their products, and I think this cloud option is actually a pretty good new update for us, right?
And it's kind of like a trend now. You see more and more vendors going to the cloud, and I think it makes sense. You have more integration possible with APIs, and then you have access to the cloud to do more AI stuff, which is probably what they want to do. So that I think it makes sense to see more and more.
So as part of their cloud, they are offering something like what's called a FortiGate as a service. and it's a basically the physical hardware, but racked in their data centers, I guess, whatever you want to call it, like their cloud. And it just provides a way to be flexible for a lot of customers. I feel like their customers are people who really want to be as flexible as possible, because to be able to say, hey, I need the FortiGate as a service, it's kind of new to me. So I'm trying to figure out how exactly you go about setting something like this up and then have an office, or maybe that's not what the target is, but the FortiGate as a service is basically hosted by Fortinet. They can do HA, basically anything you can do with a physical deployment, and it could still be able to manage your AP. So if you've got APs on site, you could use this FortiGate as a service to control your APs and do all the configurations. And it's much faster for this to be deployed rather than purchasing the equipment, having it brought on site, doing the configuration after all the ordering, and then having to deal with like the ISPs for that. They kind of manage that for you, and basically 24/7 like operations of this FortiGate. I found it a little bit hard for me to think about how this could be used from an end user perspective, but I started thinking about it from a partner perspective, and maybe from a partner side, it might be doable, because if you've got someone who needs a firewall for whatever reason, and you need maybe also the assistance in managing these firewalls, you could leverage Fortinet's FortiGate as a service and their expertise to kind of manage all of those for you. So I thought it was kind of an interesting push for the firewalls themselves being sent as a service, and Francois, like the as a service thing is kind of getting bigger and bigger the more we go, right?
Yeah, everything is as a service now. Back in the day, it started with the software as a service, the SaaS, right?
Yeah.
Now we have network as a service and FortiGate as a service.
Yeah, and I probably see Fortinet going this direction with a number of things, right? Like just the FortiGates to start, and we'll probably see the same thing with APs down in the future. Who knows? Maybe the next Mobility Field Day they'll talk about Forti APs as a service, and we'll go from there. But they did talk about other things of their cloud. They have everything in the cloud, right? So they have this unified cloud which has everything with wireless switching. If you need analytics, they have analytics. If you need like multi-tenant configurations, they can do that in the cloud, all with a single pane of management is what they were trying to say you can get with this the multi-cloud access. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because over the years, we've had people go from not wanting a single pane of glass to then saying we want it now. And so like the trend has been like a roller coaster there as well. And I think it just depends on how the vendor implements it, right? If they do it correctly. So there are other vendors where they've got different products, but they are different management platforms. You got to go log in over here to manage this part of the cloud. You got to log in over here to manage switches, and go over here for APs. I think we're now starting to see it all converge again and be a single pane. And maybe we can thank some other vendors for that, because that's how it got started with the cloud. But now it's even like out of band management. You can do that from the cloud too. There's no like extra license required with Fortinet. I think Fortinet's one of the few that just doesn't have a lot of different licensing SKUs when it comes to their products. And having managed like a few FortiGates, it's pretty easy to use, and it's got all the functionality you would need with a basic networking you have to manage. Same with the wireless. But yeah, that's
awesome.
Well,
so I think that was a pretty good overview. If you want to learn more and watch more here directly from them, you can go to the YouTube channel of the Tech Field Day. They have a playlist for Mobility Field Day 11, and you can rewatch these Fortinet videos. We'll put the link in the show notes as well, and then we'll put some of the notes that Roel took as well. Maybe you'll share some of that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, we'll add some screenshots that I took or pictures that I took from their presentation. But I want to thank you guys for listening to this episode. If you have any questions, comments, be sure to send them our way, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye, guys.
Thank you.